welcome to every screen. At the start of the movie, we see a priest and a little kid go about their daily activities at a small church in Tarascon, France, circa 1956. The boy's name is Jacques, and while he's putting away the wine for the day, he notices his ball in the incorrect place. Jacques uses his feet to put the ball away while holding the wine in his hands. He places the wine on the shelf, and when he turns back, the ball is just in front of him. Jacques kicks it back into place, but to his surprise, it returns to him. The youngster rushes up to the priest and informs him that there is someone inside. The priest screams for whoever is in the building as they stand in front of the altar. Things gradually deteriorate, and the priest is lifted into the air and immolated while Jacques watches, clutching the priest's rosary. Meanwhile, Maurice's figure moves away from the church, the nun's shadow fading behind him as if to merge with him. Irene is instructed to talk with a young nun called Deborah somewhere in Italy. She's decided she doesn't need to go to confession, and Irene is charged with guiding her back to God. Deborah informs Irene that she is only there because her father believed it was right for her to serve God while her brothers served the country. Deborah has been through much too in her youth to believe in miracles, and her faith has been shattered. Maurice has made friends with a young girl named Sophie at a boarding school. Sophie wants to gift him a friendship bracelet, but the other girls make fun of her for it. When the headmistress walks in on the chaos, Maurice swiftly retrieves the bracelet from one of the girls who had been tormenting Sophie. He displays it to her before dismissing her to class, and she wears it. Sophie is the school's instructor and Kate's daughter. Kate and Maurice appear to be close as well, and you can imagine them making a happy little family in the future. Irene has a vision of Maurice begging her to assist him, and the next day, the Pope comes to see her and informs her that there have been some terrible things happening across Europe, and she must once again assist the church. Irene asks Father Burke if he can be of any assistance, and she is shocked to learn that he died of cholera. Irene is forced to go onto the brink and plunge, but she is scared of the repercussions. She's still reeling from her previous encounter, and now she's forced to confront the same thing once more. Tarascon was the last location where the nun left her imprint. Irene arrives, and Deborah follows her without permission. Irene tells Deborah on the train that she isn't prepared to confront such wickedness while her religion isn't even at its strongest. Deborah argues that she is required. After all, she has to see a miracle to genuinely believe in God. Irene has a vision in which she pursues Jacques into an alley and is choked by the nun, indicating that she has returned. They look into the church, and Deborah speaks with Jacques. The rosary bears a little symbol that corresponds to one of the other victims of the recent atrocities. Irene quickly connects the dots and realizes that it is Maurice who is possessed. She had a flashback to the moment she left Maurice to fend for himself. She even provided him with tomato seeds, allowing him to create his own tomato garden in Hungary. At the same time, several of the girls at the boarding school harass Sophie and lock her up in the school's abandoned chapel. The headmistress forbids anybody from entering, but the girls lead Sophie to a window with a mosaic of a goat. They tell her that if she doesn't gaze straight at it, the devil will emerge as a fierce goat and harass her. Sophie, terrified, does as she is commanded, and the sun sets in such a way that the eye of the goat in the window glows crimson. It appears to be staring at you. Sophie suddenly realizes she is alone and attempts to flee. The girls barricade her, and a covered statue of Mother Mary falls and shatters in front of her. Just then, Maurice comes to her rescue, and Kate arrives to pick her up for class. Irene has someone who can help her find out more about the insignia at the Palais des Papes, so they go there. The librarian informs Irene that the demon they are chasing was once an angel who was rejected by God. Irene sees a guy in a crimson robe stabbing a little girl in the eyes. The girl then presents Irene with her eyes in a round box. The librarian informs Irene that after St. Lucy was slain by pagans, her family removed her eyes and dispersed. Her eyes had been gouged out since she wouldn't die even when set on fire. The rosary's insignia is St. Lucy's family crest, and the librarian claims that the nun is after St. Lucy's descendants because she wants the eyes. The eyeballs were discovered by a monk named Jean-Paul Retta in a monastery, which is now, of course, a boarding school. Irene and Deborah race to the school, where they discover Maurice jogging with Kate and Sophie. Irene warns him to avoid the females since he is the one who has been possessed. The realization has crushed Maurice. Irene follows him into the chapel as the nun takes over. Irene and Deborah struggle to stop him from entering, and Deborah ultimately knocks him out with a piece of wood on the head. They lock him up and conceal his face before leaving him outside. Inside, Sophie demonstrates the game the kids play, and Deborah shines a light from outside to make it appear as though the sun is in position for the eye to glow. The flash directs their attention to the location of the concealed eyeballs. When Deborah hears a disturbance on the other side, Kate and Irene dig it up. When she goes to investigate, she encounters a terrified young girl. The girl mentions someone up the stairs, and when Deborah looks up, it's the devil. Deborah saves the girls from the goat, but loses track of Irene, Kate, and Sophie. Irene locates the identical circular box in her vision and grasps the eyeballs. Maurice flees and approaches Irene, grabbing her by the neck. Kate makes her way to the other girls as Sophie flees with the eyeballs in her hand. She has a hiding place in the bell tower, which she uses. Maurice follows her there, and the eyeballs in her palm glow, indicating that she, too, has powers. Deborah believes she has sent the girls to a safe location after fending off the goat. She locates Irene and assists her in getting up. Kate, on the other hand, locates the girls, but one of them is severely hurt when the goat's horn slams into the door that they are attempting to close. Maurice causes mayhem in the bell tower, smashing the bell and shaking the edifice. Sophie ends up on a ledge, but she rescues herself as Maurice falls to the ground while attempting to save her. With her gaze, she rushes back to Irene. When Irene tries to utilize her talents on Maurice, they believe he is dead. When Irene approaches him to check on him, Maurice awakens and takes the package. He absorbs the power of the eyeballs, providing the demon with its ultimate weapon. The devil is so powerful that Irene is powerless to stop it. She is carried into the air and begins to burn from the bottom up, but Irene, a descendant of Saint Lucy, saves her. Will not burn, and we see Lorraine's eyes flash on the screen as well. Irene saves herself through her love for her mother and the strength passed down to her. Maurice attempts to assault Sophie, and Irene and Deborah are separated from them by stakes emerging from the ground. Just as they believe it's all over, Irene understands that the wine may be transformed into Christ's blood, and she invites Deborah to pray with her. The school was originally a winery, and part of the wine is now flowing all over them. Deborah and Irene recite the magic words to create the wine of Christ's blood at the end of the Nun 2, and there's crimson everywhere. The devil has finally been expelled, and everyone else is secure. We assume Maurice will enjoy a regular life with Kate and Sophie, as he had hoped, and we notice the lovely tomatoes in the school garden. Deborah's faith has been restored by Irene. She saw a miracle when Irene didn't burn to death. As usual, love and unity have the most power of all. Deborah believes because Irene taught her the path, and they were able to pray hard enough together to turn the wine into the blood of Christ.
Save me, sister.